Happy Monday. Welcome back to Retake the Week. It's been a pretty incredible PGL event, let's be real. Like, in terms of the things we saw, the new narratives we have, the new teams we saw play, and especially the way the grand final, the playoffs in their entirety played out. There is so much to talk about, so much to be broken down. Really a fascinating 7 days in the CS world. We, of course, have some other topics that aren't Astana related. We'll be talking, I'm sure, at some point about Dallas coming up and the travel schedule for some of these teams, just tangentially. We'll be talking about things like ATOX. We've got a cock of the week this week. Quack found something. I haven't even checked what it is, but it's a HLTV forum thread, so you know that shit's going to be wild. Absolutely wild.
Oh, yeah.
We've got an Eternal Shuffle. We've got Prospects of the Week. We've got everything. But before we get into that, we do have to thank the people who make this show as good as it is, and who make this channel as viable as it is, and that is the members. We're almost up to 60 members. That's pretty insane. My goal was to get 100 by the end of this year, and whilst that was delusional, as all goals you set for yourself should be, I'm surprised at how close we are already. So that's been amazing. That's been awesome. Thank you so much to people who've been joining. There's been people joining on live streams especially. That's been really cool. But yeah, people who join as members get access to the King's Court, they get access to the BTS segments, and they get access to the live stream VODs, as well as the right to vote, and any other content that might end up there, especially content that's on there that's going to come out early for members, like the Double Swing quite often does. So those are the perks for membership. Yeah, please join if you want to support the channel. It's probably the best way to do it directly, unless you are someone with a brand that wants to sponsor us, as I'm sure Quack will remind you all in a second when I ask him, what's been up with you, Quack? What have you been doing in this last week?
I've worked a lot and I've had a lot of schoolwork. Put a fun article out, which you should actually go read on Fragbite. I interviewed the guy who I am pretty sure is the most active CS player in Sweden. Probably not the world. There's probably some Russian kid out there doing even more. But this guy, over the past 6 months, I'm dead serious. Over the past 6 months, this guy has averaged 14 games of Counter-Strike, 5v5, not even wingman, like full-on 5v5 matchmaking games per day, while holding down a full-time job as well, 8 hours a day. For 6 months, like it's an insane amount of CS games. So we had to talk to this guy. So I've spoken to this guy. And he's honestly quite an interesting guy, and it's interesting hearing about like how does he feel about the game. Like, one question I had was like, when you play this many games, do you actually have like standout moments? Like, do you actually have like standout games and moments that you wanna that like you remember? And he was like, yeah, very clearly. Like I remember this clutch very vividly, and I was like, wow, all right, that's cool. I didn't expect that. But yeah, you should go read that. It was really cool. And yeah, translate it if you have to. It's in Swedish. Not anything else to promo. We put a podcast out this week. Me and XL, we do our F1 podcast out on Inters. And this week we actually have a guest. We have Trav, the Counter-Strike caster, came on to talk for 2 hours about a whole bunch of F1 races. We had like a big show notes document. And like we didn't even get halfway through it, and the episode is still 2 hours long, and then we had to cut it. Like we had to cut it, and like we had to like no, like we all have stuff to do. We need to go. So, but it was really fun. It was really nice having Trav on. He knows a lot about F1. He also showed off his merch collection. Like that dude, he's been watching F1 for probably coming up on about 20 years. I think he said. This dude has a merch collection which is so insane. Like you have to go watch it because he shows a lot of it off. It's an amazing collection. Then another thing I have to promo is I'm gonna commit to this now. Tonight I'm streaming and I'm just gonna play some gathers, some games. Yeah, play some CS. Maybe play something else. I don't know. I've been wanting to do more variety stuff, but I always end up just playing CS whenever I stream. Quacky CS on Twitch, in one word.
Okay.
Be there.
Yeah. All right. That's all your promo. Let's talk about some Counter-Strike, because, of course, we mentioned it right as we went live, right as I was introducing the show. PGL Astana wrapped up this weekend. And now that's... I didn't realize it was so direct. Officially 1 day before I Am Dallas starts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Dallas's official start date is today. Now, of course, time difference means that, one event finished relatively early. The next event is starting relatively late for, like, Europeans because of the way geography works. But it is a a crazy travel schedule for teams, especially teams who made top 4, because as soon as you made top 4, you were guaranteed to play on Sunday because of the the third place decider. One of those instances where I'm like, if I'm a player, I'm like, give me a chance, fucking let me take that off. And there's one player who wouldn't agree with that, and that's probably Molodoy, playing in front of his home crowd, literally as his LAN debut with Furia, is actually insane. But that's not the biggest story, obviously. We have to start, as we always tend to, which is with the grand final. And of course, that went 3-1 the way of Spirit. And I kind of have a question here. In terms of, for you, Quack, what's your assessment of them? Are we sleeping on them? Should we be more afraid of them? Was this final actually a sign of a bit of weakness? As in, you know, as I put out on Twitter, I expected them, that they needed to be rampant, to just dominate, absolutely obliterate Astralis. A 3-0, no close maps, really build that confidence and assert themselves as a team who should be contending with Vitality to be owning the rest of this season. And potentially going to next season showing off that they didn't need Kyousuke. They never needed Kyousuke. They got everything they need. Did that grand final reinforce that idea? Maybe they are ready to do that? Or was it more of a case of, yeah, this team, a little shaky for my liking?
I don't think it's going to be... I don't think it moves the needle too much, because Spirit, as like all of our top 4 teams right now, they are very consistently winning the games they should be winning, I think, for all 4 of them. Vitality obviously winning everything. Falcons and Mouse, I think Mouse basically only lose to Vitality and Falcons. That's pretty much the only team they lose to. And Spirit, it's the same thing. Like whenever, like Mouse is one of the teams which has had their number. Vitality had their number. Falcons has beaten them as well. It's been kind of 50-50 there. But aside from that, pretty much, like, it's not... But Spirit have lost 1 game outside of facing Mouse, Vitality, Falcons so far this year. And that game was a Na'Vi game in Katowice, which they then also, like in the playoffs, they repeat the game and they win 2-0.
Yeah.
So I don't think it moves the needle too much. They didn't have to play any of those teams aside from Na'Vi. And actually, did they even play Na'Vi, or did they just... No, they didn't even.
No. So
Astralis.
Spirit's run, when you looked at I looked at this through when I saw Donk's MVP like stats posted by HLTV, and I'm like, so they played Astralis twice, NIP twice, then 2 other teams who weren't that crazy. Like I think they play Spirit, they play what was it? Is it Furia?
Furia and Gamer Legion, yeah.
Yeah, Furia and Gamer Legion. And I was just like, that's not exactly an insane run, is it? Like even at this event, you didn't play probably the other team with title ambition in Na'Vi. You played a lot of relatively weak teams. I mean, Gamer Legion, in theory, should have been a team to give them a challenge. And honestly, that was the best game Gamer Legion played at the event. In terms of, it was 13-11, 13-11. And yeah, fairly close as far as a 2-0 can be. You know, a close sweep, as the NBA joke goes. Yep. But aside from that, really very little competition. And absolutely, absolutely should have won this event. There was no 2 ways about it. If Spirit didn't win the event, we'd be, oh god, it'd be so much mud being thrown at everything else, thrown at every player. Everyone's just getting roasted on Twitter. The forums would be just burning with content and complaints, essentially, about Spirit's roster, etc. Instead, they do take the win. But my problem is that grand final. Ooh. 2 maps, not even 2 maps in, a map and a half in, I was like, we're good. Like, Spirit are doing what I asked them to do. They crush on Dust 2. And Dust 2, holy crap. They are so far ahead of HooXi. Like, I'm going to give HooXi some credit later, but for Dust 2, he got absolutely destroyed. Not only were there, was Spirit hitting the shots and all that stuff, but they were playing exactly how they were going to play. They hit those early XX, they took the mid splits, they did some cool stuff. But as soon as Astralis, tried to come out their very passive stance and reassert themselves, like 8 rounds deep, Spirit ready for it. That's when they chose to go slower, hold the extremities, hold for the pushes. They were just all up in HooXi's head. Like the one time HooXi got the timing right on something aggressive, something a bit more challenging, proactive, was on that second round force bite. They won. From there until round 8, they just got exec'd on and destroyed. You can't allow this Spirit team to exec on you on Dust 2 because firstly, their execs are great. Secondly, you're basically putting your fate in the hands of Donk not hitting all the shots. You want to bet on that? It doesn't matter the stage. You can't bet on that. So no, they got absolutely wrecked on Dust 2. The Nuke comeback, you know, that T-side, 7-4 for Spirit. Overall, the score doesn't look that great. Astralis get some stuff done. Okay. And then Mirage, they get slaughtered. Oh my god. And you wanted to talk about this. You mentioned this a bit. You're talking about the tilt. The actual tilt.
Yeah.
Like, how much of that was actually significant for you? Like, when it gets revealed later, the whole sleeping.
Yeah. Look, I saw somebody post this on Twitter, and this is absolutely true. When you type 5 chat messages in a row, you know you lost your head. Like, you know you're gone. You are you're so upset. Not like, so for those who don't know, there was a chat message showed on broadcast, which was really fun. Stown ended up in a 1-on-4, I think, like an unwinnable 1-on-4. They knew where he was. He was just like sitting there waiting for somebody to make a mistake. Nobody was making it, of course. It's one of those rounds, like an awkward situation. You know what I'm doing, and I know what you're doing. He types in chat, ZZ, like Z, whatever you want to call it. He's sleeping. Donk gets so upset that he like starts typing back, and he's like, "Your coach is not even smiling. Why are you fucking typing?" Like, whatever the fuck he was saying. I don't even like, Jesus. This is like, yeah.
It was pretty funny because I love Shiro responds. Shiro responds first.
Yeah.
Okay, bro.
Yeah.
And then Donk.
Donk goes, "You're losing 0-2. Remember."
He's just spamming, and I was so amused. But actually, I do realize we've kind of skipped over Dust 2. I feel like it needs not Dust 2, Nuke. I feel like it needs more attention. But I just felt like, because you were sat there, I was like, I want to get you awake. tell me about this, because that was important. But Nuke, I went through my notes on the game just as you were talking. I was like, holy crap, some of those HooXi calls. Like, can we talk about round 7?
Which one was round 7?
Round 7 is, I have 4 guys going to ramp. We throw like multiple smokes to try and like obscure the hut exit to the site, so I can, as HooXi, run in there with the bomb, fake plant, then just walk back out whilst everyone else runs through ramp. The ultimate fake out. It was the most absurd call, and it ends up working out. But look, he had a strong calling half overall. Like, he gets 60 rounds on Nuke, but he just, that round 7 call specifically was the most insane thing. Like, absolutely insane thing. So I just wanted to touch on that, because the T-side calling actually out of HooXi from Nuke onwards was pretty strong.
Yeah. I feel like Nuke is the map they should have won. Even with the 13-10 scoreline, the fact that Spirit have to pull out 2 clutches to win it, a 1-on-3 and 1-on-4.
Yeah, that's why I said, like, the second half of that map is what kind of got me worried, because Spirit were unconvincingly 7-4 winners of that half, and it took Chopper winning a 1v2. Not reliable. 1v3. 1v3. Was it 1v3 over?
Yeah.
My head, it was 1v2.
He gets the first one. I think so. Yabi's like stood outside the door and he gets the first one, and then he manages to isolate one angle after another. And I feel like it's lucky. It's a lucky timing, but he got it. Yeah.
But yeah, he gets that 1v2, and it's not a reliable thing to expect Chopper to do. And then we get a Donk 1v4 or whatever it was. Like, yeah, Donk's an insane fragger, but you can't just bet on him winning 1v4s to go and win maps, win big events. That's just absurd. So that's what had me concerned there. And then, yeah, obviously, as we said, Mirage. Astralis played, quite aggressive on the CT side, especially through HooXi. Like, he was constantly prodding towards those apps, just over and over again, looking for it. And it got them punished once, but at the same time, it worked like a couple times. So it was really... a fine gambit, I think, for them to take, like, to try and be more aggressive. But, Donk has a few more insane rounds, things start breaking down again. Then Stair has that triple out of under, just by Palace. And from that point onwards, Astralis just start rolling. Like, they have a T-side streak to close. Again, HooXi, strong T-side calling. It was really a really strong Mirage in the end. Just going to address a chat point. Yes, Donk plays really, really well in the clutch, as well as being an entry. Almost like his aim style, as put forth in my prospects video, is more controlled and actually not as explosive in the way he like actually aims. It's more pre-aim focused than we realize, and he can be a rather cerebral player when he wants to be. Now, he is insane as an openings player. Don't get me wrong; he's still a great aimer. He's still insane on the openings, but he does have that ability, that style, to go play a little more passive, a little slowly, and just isolate angles, take his time, just work things out. So no, donk insane. Train though. Quack, what was your takeaway for Train? Because it ends up in OT for Spirit to close it out. Actually,
I thought
pretty
Astralis was
insane.
going to win.
Insane map, like, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought Astralis was going to win, even before the map, and I think the desk said as well the same thing. It's a map where Astralis sort of feel like they're I wouldn't even say they're very comfortable on Train, but like earlier in the event they played it really well, and I feel like Spirit don't play it too much. I feel like it's one of the ones that they avoid if they can. So with that, it's like, and then they go up, like they go up at the half, and that's, what was that, even the T half? Yeah, they go up at the T half on Train, and look, it's a different map now, but like,
it's not T-sided 8-4, I'll tell you that much. Not by standard meta.
Yeah, but they swing it, and like it's overtime, and that's, look, I can't really give a takeaway here if that's the championship winning quality of Spirit, the way they can turn maps on their head, or if it was more of an Astralis throw. I don't really have a read on that, but like it's
well, the problem is it's a bit of everything. Because look, Device has a lot of rounds that are really bad in this final. Like, I'm talking whiff shots. And there's one round where he ends up with a double kill where he whiffs like an entire magazine of AWP shots first, which less impressive as a blunder now with the 5 bullet mag, but still, pretty hard thing to do. But the train comeback was just, I was loving everything I was seeing out of that Astralis team on the T side. You know, they were really awesome in the way they were playing this sort of double lurk with Yabi and Stow on their relative extremities. Stare entrying on these really explosive outer hits when they were running them was a thing of joy, a thing of beauty, really. They had some really cool ideas, but as soon as they got to the CT side, basically it was just an Uno reverse card moment. You know, like just we can do it too. You know, Shiro can pick you off, Zontix can lurk on you, Donk can entry on you. Everything just went the other way around, and they lacked that sort of impact, that punch that they had on other maps on their CT sides at times, like where they took risks. They didn't need to win a lot of rounds. Obviously, they're already up 8-4. They didn't have a good approach to taking back that sort of pop control, challenging main. Spirit just got to do whatever they wanted. So that was a really fascinating map of Train, given that it was essentially like T-sided entirely. And we saw some of the weaknesses of the map kind of abused, where like T-side teams were actually using a bit more Ivy. Like, usually a weakness for the T-side is trying to take Ivy. Like, it's just not a very easy thing to do right now. But
I don't like it. It's not a position I think actually creates a round, which is like, Ivy is usually not a position I want to play at all on T-side. Like,
no.
Especially on this new map, I'm perfectly comfortable leaving Ivy open every round. So,
but they actually managed it, and with especially because of Stound's really effective lurking. And you saw this was actually, so speaking of calling masterclass, one round they see Magix now is playing with an AWP Ivy, so they're playing a double AWP setup. They pick off Stound as he pushes the smoke. Like, all right, cool, that's a round win for Spirit. Next round, HooXi calls an incredibly like smoke heavy, dense B execute, with blocked off sight lines, 2 players going quick down ramp, then 2 players slightly delayed coming out ramp to actually go straight to the bomb site, 1 player coming out upper. It was such a good call. And yeah, HooXi in Danish, man, just superior. He's just superior to HooXi in English, clearly. He really did a great job. He did a great job. And I think that should be our next top talking point. I think we should just transition it to that HooXi.
Yeah, just to wrap up Spirit to the original question, I don't think this event moves the needle much on where Spirit is, because they've always been able to beat all of the teams they played in these games. They've always been able to do that. They did it here as well. And for that, it's like heading into Austin, this doesn't change much. I feel like it might be a nice warm-up in that sense. It's like a confidence event. if you can even say that, because they also, like we said, they also kind of had to sweat against Astralis, and they kind of, they lost a map to Furia, which is quite a bad Furia. They played, quite close against NIP. Like all of these things, like they had an overtime map. They had very close against Gamer Legion. Maybe it's confidence that they got over these games. They have a lot of, like, they got the reps in before Austin. In terms of where I put them on the ranking, and in terms of winning Austin, this doesn't change anything for me. So for that, they're still somewhere in there. Just to wrap that up.
Yeah, okay. Because HooXi, man, look, he comes in, and we're not expecting, honestly, anywhere near this level. Let's be real. Like, no one expected close to this out of Astralis. It's the sort of thing where we know Astralis have had it in them for a while. Because unless you're a complete hater, you don't think this team has magically lost its talent. Like, sure, there's some people who are now starting to have their questions about Device and his level, and that's fair enough. We did see some rough stuff from him. But realistically, this is a team who have 2 quality riflers who've shown us at, big events, not always on the biggest stages, the biggest moments, but generally in the big events, who can perform.
Yeah.
A role player who's been notoriously outplaying his role in Stare. And then just the IGL leadership part was let it all down. Like, that was the failing of this roster time and time again. So in comes HooXi, calls at times bonkers shit, and at times just kind of has to throw their playbook out. It was something I think he mentioned at some point. Like, he was like, yeah, we came in playing Ancient the way they played it. After 2 maps of it, I was like, I need to make some changes. Like, I need to do this and that, and move Stown over here, getting more active, because I don't want to hit A so much. I want Stown involved, so I want to hit B more. He said that on the desk, and I was like, yep, again, this is the sort of thing a good IGL can do.
It's cool. It's cool that he's given the respect to do that as well, because he's officially there as a stand-in. I think that's just a financial issue that they couldn't afford to give him a contract, but that's. I mean, yeah, it's nice that he's still given officially he's a stand-in, but they've given him the authority to do that, which is nice. Both the players and the coach and staff.
Yeah, and I really respect them for it, like buying in. And everyone seemed like they're having a good time, throughout the event. I saw a lot of smiles in that team, but it's positive. It's positive signs, and I don't know if they're going to be here long term. We don't know exactly what's going on with Astralis, the org, but as far as a debut as an IGL, as good as it can get. And it was a bit of a honeymoon. Let's be clear. We had maps where HooXi just fragged the fuck out of people.
Yep.
I'm not going to bet on that repeating, even if they do side. Like, he's not going to have a game where he was like, I need to look up the exact stat, because I'm sure it's going to be something stupid. But on Mirage specifically, his head-to-head with Donk is, 5-4 in favor of HooXi. We will never see that again. We'll never see that again. So there were honeymoon aspects to this run, and yes, Stown had a great event, and Stare continued to be ungodly in playoffs. Like, his playoff rating in big events this year is a 1.22. He's 0.99 in groups. He's an average role player doing his job in groups, and then in the playoffs, he's literally a star rifler on the entries, especially. And this is insane.
Yeah.
But so there are elements that feel fictitious, like maybe just not real, but also positive signs that he can come in, command that respect, make those great calls, make those adjustments on the fly, and actually get some good results. Because the grand final is not what we're expecting, even with some overperformances from individuals on like a sort of honeymoon run. You don't expect them to make the grand final. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Like, that's the overperformance.
I mean, yeah, look, Astralis performing well at exactly this kind of event is sort of what put a damper for me on how much could be considered a good performance out of them at this event. Because I was like, when they reached the semifinal, I was like, cool. We've talked about it endlessly, how Astralis can show up at an event like this and they can do decent, and especially how many times have we had a roster move in Astralis where they immediately look good? Yeah. And they immediately blast group stages. I don't know if this is something like. So when they reached semifinals, I was like, all right, nothing has changed. This is exactly the same Astralis.
Well, then they make the final now. Because realistically, I have to push back, because they go into the quarterfinals, and that's where it's supposed to end. They play Na'Vi for crying out loud. They're not playing some random
That's
bums.
true.
And as much as we are calling Na'Vi bums in a lot of shows, just because of the individuals, we still have them as a strategically strong team. We have, a run from them in the group stage where like some of the individuals are alive, they're kicking, they're looking strong. It's not just, Na'Vi. It's Na'Vi. They're looking decent, but they are still. That's still a crazy win to go and get. And sure, it takes a 1.5 rated stare, but it's not a Stauner performance on stage. It's not a Yabby magically coming back from the dead, to be fair. He was a bit of a zombie in a lot of matches. But it's them just straight out 2-1ing them. Like, they lose Mirage, the map they're kind of meant to lose. They win Nuke, they win Ancient. That's not insignificant to come in and manage to beat that Na'Vi.
And like, in a more macro sense, if they made the semifinal and dropped out, I would have been like, all right, this is the same old story. It's the same old story where they make a roster change. The new player looks like they made the team really good, and 2 or 3 events down the line, nothing is going to happen, and there's another roster change, and we repeat. This has been the cycle for Blame F and Config. Like, ever since they got Blame F and Config, this has been the cycle for Astralis. So in a more macro sense, if they do this at an event where only one top 5 team is in attendance, depending on what you think is the top 5, maybe 2. If they do that, it's like, all right, it's the same. Then they go first of all, that run in the playoffs is good, like you say. That's sort of a difference maker. Na'Vi, yeah, they're in a downturn. I think the way the major goes, maybe it's going to change how we look back on this event, because there is. I'm going to say, I think it's fully realistic that Na'Vi absolutely shit the bed in Austin. And Aurora, I'm not really sure where to put them. So maybe this is just like, a lucky culmination of unfortunate events for their opponents for Astralis. But for now, we do consider these 2 teams to be top 5 or near top 5, and Astralis make it happen. That's different. And they make a competitive final against Spirit. That's different. So, yeah, this is looking better. It's looking a lot better for Astralis. So
yeah, just to throw some, give some credit really. Yeah, we have seen them do this in the past, where the sub comes in and they smash the group. Yeah, no doubt.
I think every single roster move since they added Blame F and Config has had this pattern of there's a slight honeymoon period. Because when they added Cadian, when they added, I can't even remember. I think when they put Stare in, that was also like they improved, and obviously the Yabbies down as well, the big one. When they put them in, they were immediately looking pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just smashing group stages, and then they go out in playoffs, and then after a while it turned into going out in groups. Like, they've missed five straight majors, so yeah.
Yeah, that's a key part as well, the missing the majors part. But I'm just trying to look through their past big event performances, who they've been going out to, who they've been managing to lose to this year. They've picked up losses to Furia. No, not Furia. MIBR, even worse.
Yikes.
They've picked up losses to, obviously, teams like Spirit, but they've lost to VP. This is not necessarily playoff. This is just big event teams they've lost to.
Mouse inclusion of poker technically in the elimination series, even though they end up in the 3rd place decider.
In Bucharest, they lose to BetClick, 3D Max. Jesus Christ. But yeah, they've been losing to a lot of teams that are a lot weaker. Inclusion of poker, they lose. That's in February, they lose to Falcons. They've had a lot of really bad losses this year. So as much as we critique Na'Vi, we critique Aurora in terms of their fall off, not having that same peak, not being able to necessarily compete for titles where they should be. Obviously that's the big talk from last year, was the big event run for Na'Vi. Aurora, in terms of who they can be when they really have everyone rolling and firing, and do they have the right calling for everything. These are not bumfuck teams. We're just talking about them being not at their best level. For an Astralis who are capable of losing to anyone from rank 5 to 16. The fact that they made playoffs, won those games, made the grand final, and then played it close is actually a massive net upgrade in terms of the quality of play. It's not an insignificant step up.
Not at all. It's very, very much an improvement. So for that they deserve their praise. But yeah, we don't have. The interesting thing about this is we don't have a lot more to go off now. They have no more events upcoming. They missed the major. They're not going to Dallas. Yeah. They're probably going into the summer break at the moment. And the future of the org is sort of up in the air. Mm-hmm. Future of HooXi, officially, he is a stand-in. And like I said, personally, I think that's because they couldn't commit to the big financial commitment of signing a new player on a long-term contract. We don't know what sort of demands HooXi has. Maybe maybe that's just outside of what Astralis can do right now with how they've been cutting down on both their academy team, their impact team, whatever. We don't know what's happening with that. Maybe this is a bit of a nothing performance where it ends up with all 5 of these players being benched, free agents come the summer break. Do you want to theorize that for a bit? Do you want to theorize what happens if we end up with this team being entirely gone and like Astralis cannot sustain this? They can't sell the squad as a whole. What do you think happens when Device, Down, Yabi, Stare, and HooXi are available over the summer break?
It depends. If we have an org who wants to step into the space and pick them up, if you want looking for a team, that's obviously just a free team. That's free. They're going to be so highly ranked in Valve ranking after this. They'll be an easy pickup. But in the same breath, they are also a very easy pickup for a Danish org. Like any one of the Danish orgs, if they can meet even something resembling their financial demands, easiest win. Like you're taking the Danish team in terms of they still have all that brand presence and recognition, and for some unbeknownst reason, adoration. I guess the PR game is far stronger. Yeah, another roster for C9 to ruin. Yeah, potentially.
Yeah, but that being said, they also have financial problems. So whoever picks them up might not want to keep playing. They might just want to recuperate like the loss. They still have Stown and Yabi are going to be expensive to buy out. Device probably on a long-term contract is going to be expensive. Stare just extended, and he's put in a performance which makes him worth the money. Like they might
have to just play without an org at that point if that's the case. Like they won't be if they're not being like if they're under contract but the org doesn't want to stay in CS. What are you talking about? How no one's going to have to buy them out. This org just leaves CS, the contract's void. If the org stays in CS, just keeps them in a contract gulag, and they slowly drop off one by one into free agency, that's just hell.
I mean more somebody maybe buys the brand and tries to sell off the assets, like to recuperate. Like they see a profit, they buy the org cheaply, and they sell off the players, the assets.
Then a big brand who already exists could go and just take that sort of like, try and pitch that to an investor, be like, we need this sort of money for a buyout. Probably what, like if you're someone who's picked up a failing organization, you're not selling everything off at peak value. Like you're not going to get peak value. So you're going to sell them off at like 70% of their rate realistically relative to market. And if people take it as one big combo buyout, you might give them a deal on top of that. So we're talking a couple mil.
True. What I'm fishing for is what if we spread these players out? Like, is there a way we see some good rosters with these? I think it's possible. It's possible. Maybe at least 1 or 2 of them.
1 or 2 of them end up
over the summer.
Stare better end up on FaZe instead of Rain. In terms of, I need to play a 2-player role on FaZe because Rain just looks uncomfortable alongside Leash.
Yep.
Having to play off him. So I would see Stare in that spot. In the same way I'd see Tessis in that spot. Even though right now I think Stare should be the hotter commodity because I don't buy into the Tessis pop-offs at quite the same rate everyone else does. That's roughly where I'd put him. For Stown and Yabi though, they kind of have to be themselves on a team, and we've seen that's not a consistent predictor of success, giving Stown and Yabi what they want. So it gets a bit rough from there on it. I really think it gets rough. And yes, Regali speaks Danish, has lived in Denmark for a good chunk of his life, if not the majority. So yes, Regali is an option for Danish teams. The whole device issue, I don't know. I can assume this is a slump, like a bad event, but I feel the concern.
He was missing a lot.
He was missing way too much.
What I'm going to say as well, you said they had a good time. I think HooXi said that everybody on the team had food poisoning. Like, Device was, like, vomiting in between maps.
Yeah, and yet they still seemed to have fun on stage, fun when they were, like, playing games, high fives. It seemed like they were having a good time. But, yeah, obviously...
Astralis really needs to start using hand sanitizer or whatever, because I feel like they're sick at every single event they go to. Like, every single event, there's always the asterisk of, oh, we were vomiting in between maps. And it's like, all right, wear a fucking mask or something. Like, obviously you have an issue with getting sick every other event. Like, this is like...
Bro, maybe use less hand sanitizer. Build up some immune system. Like, what is it
maybe that. Touch some grass. Yeah. I can see Device as a commodity. I feel like there's a lot of teams which need oppers, and there's not a huge amount of talent to go around. There is some, like, op talent, but there's also a lot of it is CIS.
Yeah.
I'm thinking. Here comes the scenario. All right, Navi bomb out of Austin, wonderful, 0.8 rating. Sign device.
Unlikely,
Just
but
try
yeah,
it.
okay, yeah.
Just try it. Just try it. Just try it. Just try it. Sign device. Phase. Simple. Goes to absolute shit. Phase. They bomb out of Austin. Simple is like, fuck this. Goes back to Navi bench. Phase device. Goes with Stare. Perfect.
Yeah,
I'll give
no,
you another one. I'll give you another one. I'll give you another one. Heroic are losing Sun Pius. Heroic
Oh
device.
yeah, they could just sign device. That's one of the few teams where I'm like, this isn't a dumb risk. Given all of the asterisks and problems he's had over the last year or so, that's not a dumb idea because you are heroic. You're not really in the
one hell of
market
an
for big
injection of
signings
talent
right
as well. Yeah, but one hell of an injection of experience as well into
Experience,
a
yes.
roster. A heroic, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
it's
that's something they need. They need a guy who's not going to fade on land. ...
Yeah.
No, I mean
aside from youngster, yeah.
Aside from fucking Tanir, I'm sorry, Tanir's a monster.
Yeah,
even on their land.
Youngster was good on the land. I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
But no, the device run has to be studied because like the last 3 maps, he's technically his ratings are over 1, but his dust 2 is 0.3, and you're like, oh god. Yeah. How is that possible from an AWPer of this caliber? And if you look through like the playoff events, he has 1 good map in the other 2 playoff series they played at this event. He's bad against Aurora on Nuke and Mirage, then he's good on Train. He's good against Na'Vi on Nuke, then bad on Mirage and Ancient.
Yep.
And watching the games as well, you're seeing them. When you're watching his POV, bro's with it. Bro is with it. How can this be? Like, Device just does not look like himself, and we can put it up to food poisoning. We can put it up to sickness. But he's just not that hot of an asset right now. So I think Heroic is maybe the right tier. That might be harsh to say, but it might be the right tier. But all right, shall we move back from the grand final?
Yep. We have 2 more talking points at least.
A lot of stuff to kind of touch on. I'm not sure we're going to touch on every single team who didn't make the grand final. We'll touch on some of them, including this one. Furious Salvation. Who'd have thunk it? Molodoy would save these teams. No, I mean, look, the Furia run, it's the honeymoon of all honeymoons. Like, crazy run. So they open up with a 2-1 loss to Mongols, and you're thinking, yeah, about right. Nothing much to see here. Then play Gamer Legion in the 0-1, you're like, oh, that's rough. That's rough. Gamer Legion just came off a really tight game with Spirit. We know they're a quality team. They've got all these great players. Bang, 2-1. Yep. Molodoy, 1.2 rated. Ooh.
Showed up, yeah.
Spicy. He's not even that good on the closeout map, actually. He's just good Anubis Mirage. Anubis especially, if you've watched the game. Anubis, he went crazy. And at that point, they get a gift. They get an absolute gift. They get MIBR followed by Odic in their 1-1 and 2-1 games. And I'm sorry. That's as free as it gets. If you're a team trying to integrate new pieces, you maybe not got the most rigid structure, the calling style isn't that like set out. You're kind of moving Fall into weird positions. He's having to do his job from anchoring now. He's not got the same vision of the map. I mean, he wasn't that great of an IGL and AWPer before, but still, it doesn't feel like it should be working. But they get teams who are playing some ugly CS, and we watched some Odic games on stream this week. VOD's available for members if you want to check it out. And it was messy. It was messy. So Furia get gifted a route into playoffs off the back of that. And in playoffs, they play MIBR. Come on. How many gifts can one all get? The honeymoon wasn't even really necessarily the individuals. It was just the seeding and the draw. That was their honeymoon. Yeah. Honeymoon seed. They then win training at Spirit, and that's just the craziest part of it all. But like, how they got to play 3 Brazilian teams in a row, repeated one of them, pissed me off a bit. Because I'm like, it's cool to see Molodoy go so deep, play with his home crowd, and actually pop off a bit and have some good maps, have some strong moments. I thought that was awesome. But how did they get this run gifted to them?
Yeah, look. I feel like if there's something to talk about this event, which also has been talked about, but like the Molodoy of it all is one thing, but Yakindar also put up a really good performance, which is look, it's a little bit of a Yakindar resurgence. There's one thing
It's classic though, isn't it? One event in with your
yeah,
Kindar, we made our best rating in a while. We're playing pretty strong.
yeah,
He's got these little plays he's going for that are really effective. People are talking
yeah.
about the Yekindar pathing out of A main on train, and you're like, yeah, this is the Yekindar honeymoon. Like this always happens.
I was about to mention that because that also ties into another thing, which is the big worry that I and a lot of people probably had about this Furia team was communication, because they're coming in with Molodoy, who I think what he said outright was, "I've been practicing in English for 2 months," and it's like, wow, all right.
Yeah.
You have Deserato previously wouldn't do interviews in English. Like he'd only speak Brazilian, and like we heard about this when Junior came in. Is that like all of us need to improve our like Art would say, like all of us are really bad in English and we have to practice, and that's one of the reasons we brought Junior in. So like we can improve that skill for us. You have clear communication issues. What you still have somehow on this team is one of those rounds on train where they played Spirit, where Yekindar has to spawn to get a really good timing out of A main, and he forgets to buy. And in like a split second decision, you can see it that Fallen, who's right behind him, like without stopping, running towards A main, he throws the AK, runs back, buys for himself, and like they do this really quick succession of things, which is like, wow, that's obviously really well communicated already. You can do this, and yeah, sure, both teams have both of those players have international experience, but like the fact you can do that in what's probably going to be quite a hectic team speak server is like, yeah, nice. Like that's really cool, and that was also a really cool round out of the Yekindar. But yeah, I'm not ready to call Furia an overly good team just yet, but that's at least promise for this team. That's a lot more. Furia always seem to look. The first event out of a Furia roster move is sort of the inverse Astralis, because I feel like they almost always look worse. Like,
yeah, they usually look like absolute shit. Like the first time you see them with Cello, you're like, this cannot.
Yeah.
Oh, this is not an upgrade.
Yeah, it's like you cut like all of the roster moves. Like you cut. What did they do? They did art for. No, wait. Yeah, they had art and Fallen both for a while. Jesus, that's cursed.
Yes.
They cut art for Kai, and it's like, all right. You cut
I
Kai
was
for
basically a stand-in. Like that wasn't really meant to be a permanent move, but they just didn't find anything for a while, and it was ugly.
Yeah, and then Kai for Cello, it doesn't really improve, and it's like all of these. Every step feels like they're getting worse, but at the start, and then they maybe show a little bit of promise later on if it's half decent. But yeah, they this is fine. So this is maybe different. But you also had to read about this last week, which I can't really remember. Is that like it's early on in a new team with the Yekindar, and that means people listen to him because he has ideas.
Yes, so that was I put this forth. Yeah, I think it was on our show, and then probably
it was last week,
somewhere else, because I always repeat myself, I feel like. But look, Yekindar's going to come in. He's going to have a lot of ideas. He's going to have a lot of opinions, and because you haven't played with him for a while, because he's a new player, and in the new team you're integrating pieces, you generally tend to let them have a bit of a voice, or you give them the benefit of the doubt, like, oh, maybe he does have a good read on this. We'll let him try it. What's the harm? It's our first event. And Yekindar's going to do some stuff that's really going to inject some pace, inject a bit of spice, a bit of a different look to your team. And he's going to, early on, if you're lucky, he's going to shoot hard. And that's going to make it all work. And all of a sudden you'll be like, oh, sick. Maybe we do have this. Maybe this can work. I find a little more belief myself. All of a sudden, Yuri's looking like he's looking like Yuri from 6 years ago. He's looking like the old Yuri, the COVID Yuri. Like he's actually really strong.
Yeah.
Like, oh, damn. Maybe Yekindar's right. Maybe this is what we needed. This is the injection we wanted. And potentially it can turn sour, and later on it can go downhill. But at least initially, it's looking very strong. Now, my main concern with this series of moves was Molodoy coming in, because those of you who watch Prospects Molodoy know there was a weirdness about his game that didn't make a lot of sense to me. There was something off. Like it's almost like he's not playing in a team, which feels a bit odd to say because he's obviously playing in a team. It's Counter-Strike, but he's just disconnected from a lot of the play, and he's got a ridiculously low trade frag value, like a number, and you're like, that's just odd. And then you watch the demos, you're like, yeah, he's kind of playing just by himself a lot of the time. And that was, for me, both a big issue in terms of seeing him playing at the next level, but it's one of the few things that actually could get him good numbers, or maybe like get some impact on Furia, if they can just leave him with his AWP in a spot and just let him work. And it happened a fair bit in this run. There's Anubis games where he's just playing Electric, and he's just sat there. There's no one on the site behind him. Everyone else is mid and A, and he's just holding it. There's moments where Furia on Nuke go outside, and he's lurking lobby with an AWP. What the? And the worst part is, he picks up a kill. He goes and kills a guy on the A bomb site. Like, this shouldn't work, but he's that talented. He is that talented that he can just hit the shots. And we saw early on, there were a few whiffed shots in his first couple games, where maybe I think maybe the LAN was getting to him, like in terms of the timing of his counter-strafe flick that he loves to go for. A few of those shots that he usually would hit, like, every time, basically. He was whiffing. But by the time playoffs rolls around, especially when he's facing that MIBR team for the second time, slow start on Nuke, but then just starts popping off and just contributing and hitting all these shots, hitting clips. And all of a sudden you're like, damn, this is the Molodoi that was promised. This is the upside of what his talent showed me. Problems maybe coming down the line, like coming down the pipe, if he is not able to ever play in like a more pack-focused role, or maybe play with the team in terms of the space taking, if they need him to hold angles, communicate, use util, like, if he's not able to do that, we have some problems if we're Furia. But if he's just going to hit these shots, lock areas down, and you develop a whole game plan off the back of it, like a playstyle around it, and you can kind of just band-aid that problem, sure. Go for it. I'm happy to watch you play in this in a different way, create your own style. I love teams who play a little differently. But that was my main concern, but it ended up being one of their strengths in this event. Molodoi's style and Molodoi's ability, quite importantly, was really important, really impressive. Plus, he had some banger rifle rounds where he just hit like some crazy flick headshots. He just showed us the full package in this event. So happy with what I saw. Molodoi, yeah, great start, and this roster, pure honeymoon shit. I refuse to believe that Yuri's going to be really great forever. Yekendar's going to maintain his individual level. I'm sure Moldo's going to keep hitting shots, but like, there was elements of honeymoon to it, but at least I saw some interesting stuff, some positive stuff, some cool Counter-Strike. I'm happy with what I got to watch from Furia, as much as it was complete bullshit that they made the semi-final.
Yeah, I liked him. I liked also that he was quite outgoing. Like, he was really appreciating the arena. It was his home crowd, of course.
Yeah.
He had his fans around all of this, of course. We know this, but it was nice that he really seemed to appreciate that to a big degree as well, and like really, maybe he wasn't showing off in the same sense that a lot of other players maybe show off sometimes, but he was doing he clearly appreciated it. He wasn't just like super timid, like he was actually doing interviews in the arena and stuff, and that's nice. So yeah, you wouldn't get that out of some other players, especially from the CIS region.
Yeah, he as much as he played a style, he did neuter some of the extreme aspects. Neuter, bit over the top, but he didn't go as extreme in some things. Like, he wasn't perennially AWPing. Like, his AWP KPR on the T side went down from 0.4, which was absurd, to 0.3. Still way above tier 1 average, but not as extreme. You know, he took his opening kill attempt rate down 4% on the T side as well. Like, he wasn't quite the extreme Molodoi, just the AWP guy that we've seen online quite often. But yeah, there was certain aspects of his play that remained typical to him, and I was really impressed with the way he stood up to the pressures of all of a sudden playing tier 1 play. Like, as much as, you know, Blade dismissed the event as tier 2, basically calling his team tier 2 by that logic, if they couldn't make the fucking final. I think Kassad was talking about, Kassad has a weird tier 1 where he calls like the 4 elite teams tier 1 and then everything else is tier 2, which for conversations beyond the top 8 teams in the world is completely just pointless. Like, we can't have a good discussion about tier 1, 2 and like what events are what if that's where the line is. The Premiership is only the teams who make the Champions League. Everyone else is playing in the Championship, apparently, by that essential rationale.
No, you need to be wider.
It obviously needs to be wider, but look, it was a tier 1 event for my money. Not big event always feels a bit generous, especially when you come to the end of a period of time. You're like, who got the big event MVPs? You're like, Donk's got 2. Oh yeah, PGL. Oh yeah, the Blast Rivals. Like, it feels a bit different to Zywoo's 5 straight, but like, That's where we are right now in the scene. So it's a bit odd, but it definitely is tier 1. And I'm impressed with how he played. I'm happy with how he played. And Furia, you know, as much as it could have been a nightmare, this was sort of a dream. So kudos.
Kudos.
You got anything more to add?
No, not really about Furia.
Okay, well,
we have some more kudos to give out, yeah.
Yeah, kinda. It's a team who are very much not honeymooning. And it's the ninjas sneaking into top 8. And I use sneaking because they're ninjas, and ninjas typically are, you know, quieter, more stealth-based. I don't know if you know this, Quack. But yeah, that's what ninjas are like. But no, they make a pretty strong final return to LAN. Like, final as in finally return to LAN. Snappy at a real event. I mean, he was at that other event, that Fragadelphia. I don't give a toss about that. This is a real LAN, a tier 1 LAN with Snappy in attendance. I was delighted. It was fantastic to see him. And yeah, his team get off to a good start with a win against Virtus Pro, especially taking them down on Train as the first map. I thought that was a pretty good statement of like, yeah, we're a real Train team.
They played that a lot,
strong. We're going to pick it. We're going to pick it even to teams who, like VP, who have in the past sort of shown they kind of like it. Not that they've been particularly successful, but still. They took that route against most opponents. They love to play Train. They lost it against Spirit, but they didn't let it break them. They even picked it against Aurora, won it. They then went into that game against Hotu, didn't pick it, but won it. Won the series, 2-0, thank the heavens.
Yeah.
And then, of course, beat G2 2-0 to go through. A lot of narratives surrounding the individuals on this team, I feel like, is what we got out of it from the majority of like the talk. It wasn't so much about, oh, Snappy's actually doing some cool stuff on Train, or, look how Snappy's got the team playing this area. It was just shush fragging. You jerks not fragging. Grrr. That was all the commentary I saw around it. Like in terms of the forums, in terms of Twitter, everything was fixated entirely on that. Which I think is a bit of a shame. I don't know about you, but I want to see more talk about the way they're playing, not necessarily just who got big number, ooga booga.
Yeah. Look, you can talk a lot about the individuals as well. Like Ujux was really nowhere. And I remember last week when we did the show, it was just a Shush show. Even Wrinkle wasn't putting anything up.
Yeah, Wrinkle wasn't putting up crazy numbers, but Shush was just a monster. He was a Terminator. Like he was just wrecking everyone.
Yeah, and when we were recording last week, it was during round 3, and we had nothing out of Wrinkle at that point. He was 0.9 something, I think. But then, against Aurora, against Hotu, and especially against G2, and in the Spirit playoff game, Wrinkle really put up some good stuff. And even Aristotche came up. Like, he came up and started doing some decent stuff. So you can talk a lot about the individuals. I didn't see a lot of talk about how they played. I think it looked solid. Like, I think it looked fine. It's not like stuff is looking wrong. It's not like stuff is looking like this won't hang in tier 1 at some point. So for that reason, I feel like they did pretty good. They obviously feel like they're already there level wise. I think as Dodgy said outright that like among the teams in the world, we are one of the 15 best. Even if the ranking won't show it. I'm not sure if I'll believe him on that entirely, but we also have some.
I want to believe him.
Yeah, I'm ready to say they're better than 3D Max, just because already I feel like NIP having stronger performances against better teams than 3D Max could do. And honestly, I'm not even sure where I'm gonna put G2 at this point. I know they played with TAS. I know they're playing with Hades, but Hades is their upper at this point. Until further notice, Hades is their upper, and I know they played with TAS, but they look so trash that I'm almost ready to say that NIP are one of the 15 best because G2 are not.
No, so G2 were, oh god, G2 were bloody awful. And look, I remember seeing after one map of the MIBR series, the forum just popping off with Maub's MD slander, essentially. Just talking about how terrible he is, how he needs to be cut, how he's not living up to his label, how he's secretly trash, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then he kind of brings it back and he's fine on Ancient and Nuke, like in terms of his rating, and for that, the crowd goes silent, As soon as the rating changes, they don't care. But G2, they made Odic look like a legit structured team. At times, it was awful. It's horrible. the only teams they beat in the end are M80 and Big. And M80 realistically are one of the teams that should just be taking the fattest L out of this event. They should be really disappointed with how they played.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, G2 played horrible, messy CS. Basically got carried through a few maps by MalbsMD hitting crazy peaks and playing like MalbsMD. Not trying to play like Nico, playing like Malbs. Just full aggro, swing stuff and hit headshots.
You've been saying this over and over and over again, how he needs to stop playing like Nico and he has to start being being Mabs. And I saw this in I think it was a short headline where Hunter said exactly the same thing. He's like, yeah, we're just trying to make Mabs feel like Mabs instead of Nico. Like that was a headline on HLTV.
It's so obvious. I've been saying that since before Nico left, pretty much. Like, just like be Malbs. All he has to do is be Malbs, and you can figure everything else out. And as my semi-joking, but actually genuinely fully serious point was at the time, like, you know how many players play like Nico as riflers and have won majors? Zero.
Yep.
Zero. Like, you can win
Including
majors
Nico.
without being Nico. Like,
Including Nico.
You could dominate the scene without being Nico. Like, as great as Nico is, and as much as I have so much respect, and especially some of his major grand final runs are actually goated tier stuff, you don't have to play like Nico to dominate. You don't have to play like Nico to win events. So that was my frustration. And finally, he kind of stepped into that mold at this event and just ripped some teams apart. So I was happy with that. But yeah, that was kind of a diversion from the NIP point. But still.
It was, but yeah.
NIP, I think, showed us they have tier 1 quality in terms of their calling, in terms of their AWPer, in terms of their anchor and shush. They have pieces that are clearly tier 1. And I think Arozdosh, his awakening wasn't just like, oh, he's had some fluke maps. He actually came in and started playing more like how I'd seen him play online a bit, like more confident in his spots. I was happy with what I saw from NIP overall. I think Snappy's got them in great shape. And yeah, in Snappy we trust. Funnily enough, real IGLs make shit happen. They make things work. And you give them talent, typically they're going to win games. So huge for NIP to make top 8. Obviously, they then fall down to Spirit. What are you going to do? You don't have Donk. You just don't have Donk. You can't really go toe-to-toe with them at this point. Especially, that train CT side from them was, ridiculous from what we saw from Spirit. So, a rough ending, but a great run overall.
Yeah, they have not a lot happening later on, so I guess for them this was a nice end to the season. They still have some online games to play through, but they're...
Sorry,
but
I just saw the individual matchups in that Spirit BO3. U-Jerks was 3-12 against Donk.
Yeah, that's not what you want to see.
Rough.
I'm not... Still, I'm not convinced by U-Jerks whatsoever. I feel like they could have done better there. But yeah, anyway.
Let's go more to... We can go more to generic, just PGL takes at this point. Like, if there's anything left to clean up. Like, just some teams we want to briefly touch on. Like, so we touched on G2 during that segment, so I'm thinking there's probably a little bit we can say about some other teams.
I feel like Mongols and Aurora kind of like, it's a very much... it's not a nothing performance. I feel like both teams should have aimed higher. They should have made the final. They should have probably... not them and Navi probably should have been the ones that should have been on the other side of that Spirit bracket. Like, they should have been the other side of the final. One of them. We didn't get any of them. Aurora, I think, I don't even know what to think about it, man. Like,
So Aurora are, for my money, like, in the past, I've said, like, if you can challenge their opening idea, you just beat them. Like, if they can't take the map control they have, you can just beat them easy. Like, I'm talking 1-for-1 trades. They don't really get the space. What are they going to do? Mid-round? No. And it's even worse than that. This was pointed out by Maui pointed this out, and then I was looking through a game of theirs, and I was like, this is actually really true. As soon as they take up any form of map control, they basically just go off the back of it to wherever that map control takes you. Like, there's not going to be some like diversion, some counter, some lurk play, or anything to worry about. They're just going to go. Like, they take banana, they're taking B.
Yeah.
Settled. So their predictability and inability to adjust just kills them. And sure, when they have all the players rolling and they're just trying to, like, just smash through you and you can't keep up with the firepower. You can't take that 1-for-1 exchange and hold on to the map control. Xantares, Wicadia, Jota, everyone's banging you out. Even HooXi when he's on his top game. You're just going to get stuffed by them, sure. And that's kind of what happened to Mongols, from what I could tell. Like, yeah, they didn't even really get smashed by Xantares, which is a bit of a weird change, I think, from the current run we've seen from Aurora. It's been very Xantares heavy. We've been sort of concerned about the level from Wicadia, from HooXi. The fact that they then step up, have their like best games we've seen in a few months, just to beat Mongols. Yeah, sucks for the Mongols, but they're famously not great on stage either. So one of these two had to go through. It's the one who had no performance who did.
HooXi and Wicadia had a really good run in some of these maps. Mirage against Astralets, I definitely feel like it was HooXi sort of winning that map. And Xantares was he was showing up for the impact rounds. Like they win, I think they won 2 eco/force buy rounds towards the end of Mirage, which kind of took it over the line. That was Xantares, like finding good impact there. I think the closing round was like on a force buy where they managed to retake A side. That was Xantares on a 5-7. Like that, it happens.
Yeah.
This I don't really feel like this has improved them. This is one of the events where they really could have benefited and gained some steam and gained, like, Dallas is another chance for that, but gaining some steam into Austin, and they're not gonna use that chance at Dallas, because this is maybe more of a bit of an Astana point. Two teams are affected by the Astana Dallas debacle out of a potential 5. I'm just going to point out the 2 of the teams who are not going to be affected because they went out early are Mongols and Gaming Legion. Mara and Ash are geniuses for going out early. I'll say. No, but Aurora and Furia.
Ash was just here to practice some strats against Spirit. That's all he wanted. It was just to run through some stuff against Spirit, see how it holds up, and then we can take the rest of the event off. Enjoy some, some pilaf and some other like classic cuisine from the Middle Asian region. Try on some cool hats and then go home. Go to Dallas. Get some barbecue in.
But Furia and Aurora are the 2 teams affected who are at this point, I can tell you, without even having heard from them, I can tell you they are somewhere over the Atlantic at the moment. Because that's what the travel plan entailed. I'll try to run this back. Basically, if you made the top 4, you would play on the Sunday, on May the 18th, either in the 3rd place decider or in the final. And the consequence of doing that is that that leaves you with 1 flight, which is going to make it to Dallas before your game actually starts. All right, which is it left. I'm gonna read through this, and I'm gonna see, because ESL put this travel plan out. And I'm gonna see if I can remember the times. I think it was 24 hours of travel straight up, because you had to fly you're flying. You had a stopover in Budapest and then you land in Dallas, which is a 12-hour time zone difference. So your jet lag is going to be insane. It's the most jet lag you could be, pretty much. So I think it left out of Astana at 2:15 a.m. local time, and they land at 12:45 p.m. in Dallas today, which has not happened yet. This is going to be early morning in Dallas at the moment, so that's in another 12 hours. They're either in Budapest or they're over the Atlantic right now, because that's a long flight.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, not Budapest. I mean Istanbul. So they left Astana, had a stopover in Istanbul. They land in Dallas. That's the travel plan, and they're doing that right now. What they've been doing is that they are allowed to skip media day, which was yesterday, the designated arrival day, which means that they are already being fined $4,000 each and deducted 5% of their prize money winnings, according to the rules. That's already happening. They will literally be arriving. The absolute latest they can arrive at the venue, I think, was something like 40 minutes before their game, and that was cutting it close, considering they land at 12:45 in Dallas. And I think the games they have start at some point like 2 p.m. and they have to get to the venue as well. So it's like this is close, and there's a risk we see forfeits out of Aurora and Furia at this point. So yeah, a lot of shit could happen. They have they're being assigned the last match slot, 7 p.m. So I think you're gonna see, yeah, Furia have this European time 2 a.m. slot, and Aurora also have the 2 a.m. slot. So they have been given the benefit of having the last slot. That's still only like you land at Dallas Airport, presuming no delays. You land at Dallas International Airport, whatever the fuck it might be called, 3 hours before your official starts, and you have to be there about an hour before them. So they have 2 hours to get to the venue and everything. This is one hell of a travel
American
plan.
traffic is trash, like always a big problem. I mean, I think given when they're landing, they might be able to avoid it, but it's still probably not be guaranteed to be smooth sailing, you know, all the way through Dallas Fort Worth.
And if you have
I'm not sure how far the trek is from the airport, but it might be a problem.
If you have 40 minutes of delay in Istanbul, that's going to be significantly more difficult in Dallas. But anyway, yeah. So I think what happens is they get 15 minutes leeway as well from the start of the game to map 2, where like if you're only 15 minutes late, you only forfeit the first map, which is quite funny. But yeah, Aurora face Heroic at 2 a.m. tonight. Furia face the Mongols, who could have been in the same debacle, but they went out early. Mara genius, and they are going to come in well rested, and probably have the advantage they would have anyway. But yeah.
Do we know where they're playing the group stage games? I've got Google Maps open.
Oh, right. Yes, we actually do. And I think it might be the same. It's like a venue off the arena, obviously. But I'm gonna check what it's called. The arena is wait, is that true? The Key Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center. No, I think that's the group stage place. Because that's just a place in the middle of nowhere, I think. Oh no, maybe that is the main arena.
Key Bailey. What?
Key Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center, Dallas. Oh, okay. No, okay. I'm gonna double check and see where ESL Impact finished their one, because they're playing the final in the same arena.
Hey, Bailey Hutchinson. All right, got it.
Oh, sorry, yeah, K Bailey. Yeah, okay. I think maybe they play the same thing in the entire arena, because I know there's a dream match going on at the same thing.
Oof. That is that might be a bit of a trek, actually. Holy crap.
Dallas is a big place.
Dallas is big. I mean, it's the international airport is between Dallas and Fort Worth. Technically, 2 different places, but it's one big metropolitan area. That is.
Yeah.
Ooh. I don't know. This could be real fucking tight. I'm just looking at it now.
Google Maps says it's 20 minutes by car. I don't think that's true.
Yeah, in theory. But we're talking about what if there's problems, you know?
Dallas is also one of those cities it was like drawn up in the 19th century, which means everything is just a grid. So you might end up with big traffic here, yeah. This could be fun. We're gonna wake up, unless you're, I guess, unless you're Backpack Brain, who was in the chat earlier. We're gonna wake up tomorrow and find out how things have gone, because I am not up at 2 a.m. tonight. But yeah. So it could be fun.
Yeah. But all right, let's go into our small site retakes.
Oh, yeah, let's go.
We have, what's yours? We'll do with yours first, just because I need to go check what the hell's going on at the front door.
Yeah, I'll start off.
Yeah, let's start off with you and the ACL.
Yeah, I'll start off monologuing about a fun event which wrapped up this week. Shout out, friend of the show, Yumi, who was casting this event, which is the reason there haven't been a lot of double swings. And the reason me and Garmer got to be on, that was fun. Shout out Garmler. No, but yeah, we had this event. It was a big LAN event, lasted like, the playoffs of it lasted 2 weeks, and we had it was the close qualifier as well ahead of that. The entire thing was like a month almost exactly. So it was all in China. We finished up in Shanghai, I think, or maybe in Yancheng. I'm not sure.
Finished in Shanghai. Yangcheng was where the rest of the event happened, basically.
Yeah. So I'll just wrap you through sort of what happened. We had Lin Vision beat GGHao to win their group, which meant they went straight to the final. Like, the group final was kind of the semi-final in a weird way. I feel like this could just have been a double elimination bracket, but all right. Lin Vision beat GGHao in their group final, which is basically the semi-final. So Lin Vision go to the final. Tyloo beat FlyQuest in their group final, which meant we have Tyloo versus Lin Vision for the grand final, and we had FlyQuest GGHao for the third place decider. FlyQuest 2-1 against GGHao. GGHao took home a pretty good dust too, but other than that, it was pretty good like pretty good FlyQuest game. Netic did good. And the final, Tyloo took home 2-0 after a very even Inferno map and a blowout on Ancient. That would have been triple overtime on Inferno. So yeah, shit's crazy. But this event is pretty fun. It's a $300,000 LAN in Asia. Tyloo got $100,000 for winning this, and this also with a lot of teams. Like talking about the VRS, I think I've talked about this before. The prize money is not that important. Like a big prize money LAN is not that much more impactful than a small prize money LAN. What makes the difference is that regardless of opponent, regardless if they're ranked or not, or whatever ranking they have, when you are around the sort of 50 to 100 mark on the VRS, if you get a match win on LAN, just having that match win is more than everybody else around you has. So you're gonna see a big impact on the VRS. And this is exactly the sort of event where I think there's an upper cap of 5 or 10 LAN wins before, you know, they only count your 6 or your 10 best LAN wins or something like that. So before that point, if you're around teams which have fewer than whatever the limit is, 10 LAN wins, every LAN win you get is going to be a big leg up on LAN, because even if they beat Spirit on LAN, doesn't really matter. You won another game on LAN. So that's sort of one of the quirks. So at this point, you get big rewards from winning on LAN, big VRS rewards. Once you hit the point where everybody around you is winning games on LAN, then you start the VRS starts to look at what the opposition is to a bigger degree, and the impact you're going to get is like if you beat fucking, what are they called? Ninja, this random team called Ninja. If you beat them on LAN when you're being compared to Spirit, no matter, but if you beat Spirit, then you're going to get an advantage. Basically, the TLDR is, going into this event, we had one Asian team, one attending team out of Asia in the, we had Mongols obviously, but out of these attendants, we had one team in the top 30. After the event is wrapped up, we have 5 teams who are top 30 in the world on the VRS. And those teams are Rare Atom, who were already there, FlyQuest, Tyloo, Linvision, and GGHao are now top 30 on the VRS. So that's the huge impact of local LANs, and I love it. And yeah, that's a kind of, it's a shame we're not going to have invites for another couple of while, because we have a Dallas wrapping up. I don't think there's any event which is going to invite based off of this next VRS until, like, the next big events we have are going to invite based off of the post major VRS. I think maybe this Fisher Playground event in Belgrade ends up inviting some of these teams. This is a $1 million LAN, Jesus. So maybe, but which is a shame. We're not going to see the impact of it, but I think it's really cool. And we briefly spoke about this on the pre-show. GGHao are looking really good, because the other ones of these events, they have attended some tier 1 events, they've won some games. We've had decent performances out of Linvision, Rare Atom, Tyloo, all of this. We've talked about them earlier in the year. FlyQuest as well, obviously. GGHao, they are starting to win these Asian games. Like, they beat the Huns, they beat Linvision at one point in the groups, and then they lost to them in the game which actually mattered. But yeah, and they put up a decent performance against FlyQuest. So they are starting to look decent. And that's really cool. That's really cool, because this is a team which I feel like is sort of the Middle Eastern super team. I can't think of, like, outside of Israeli players, I can't think of a single player from this region who deserves to be on GGHao more than the ones that are already there. Like, this is an absolute top 5. So that's cool.
This is it.
Yeah.
This is entirely it. And basically, if you look at their ranking progression, like, Lord comes in as coach this year, and they
also impactful. Yes, flew under the radar because I don't think he was announced, but that was important. Yeah.
And they started winning basically games at this sort of event. In Mason Nomadic, they can beat Saw. They go through, like, the Asian Champions League close quali and beat not great teams, but teams that are just, they might have some trouble with in the past. Astana, they make the grand final of that close quali.
Yeah.
They do a lot of this little things, and then, come into the Asian Champions League and they win those big games against the Huns, against Linvision, which you don't typically expect from them. Now, they're not exactly playing great CS. We went through it on stream. We're like, are they legit? That was the question. We watched the demos, and not quite. Not quite. It is a lot off the back of just Boros being an ungodly aimer to break stuff open, very basic set rounds. And then on maps that aren't Dust 2, some of the ugliest T-sides you'll ever witness. This is a literal description of how they won several nuke rounds. They throw out of smokes. They start going across. The smokes then fade as they're still at red. They look around, just waiting for someone to peek them. No one peeks them. They just walk back to lobby. At that point, I think it's the Huns at this point, have taken lobby control, and they just headshot them.
Yeah.
That was it. What was this round? And it happened multiple times. Where this kind of thing where they just stall out awkwardly, walk back somewhere that's been lost, hit a few headshots because the other team are there now, and then they just like, oh, okay, now we'll just walk into a bomb site and just keep trying to hit headshots, and it kind of works. They just played DM outside a lot of the time on Nuke, which compared to their Dust 2, which was basic, but at least looked planned, it was quite horrifying. So no, the Asian Champions League was good for them to show their level being at least competitive with the lower levels of Asian CS. Not lower levels, like outside the top 4 of Asian CS. They maybe like sat there at 5. They can maybe edge 4. They're beating teams like Semperfi or teams from Mongolia that usually would just stomp the Middle East North African teams when they actually had Middle Eastern and North African players. So for them, a huge upgrade. Finally making the super team work, at least to some degree. Yep. And so I'm really happy for them, but they need a lot more before they're a complete team who can truly play like tier 1.5 CS. They are so far from that just because of their map pool being basically one map, and then we can fuck around,
Yeah.
We can play Counter-Strike, I guess.
Yeah.
We don't really know what we're doing.
Yeah, as much as I'm also talking about how their VRS increases by this, we have a rank update on HLTV later today, which is probably going to boost a lot of the teams quite a bit as well, because they don't have a huge amount of, like, these games. I think for Linvision and Tyloo, it's just a one game, and for GG How, it's a one loss. So GG How might not gain too much, because most of this was already in the last Monday's rank update. But Linvision might step into the top 30 alongside Tyloo and FlyQuest, and we're gonna have HA is kind of big right now thanks to this event. How legit do you think that is? That's up to you. But yeah, we have fun event which wrapped up, and good stuff.
Yeah, pretty cool. So my small site retake is I'm also going to be again leaning on live stream stuff. Now, VODs are available for the live streams we've done. And now I really regret the one thing I could have prepped before getting it. Oh my god, my chat hadn't updated in so long. I just managed to refresh it. Okay. Anyway, the Kyousuke questions. Now, the reason we went into a sort of very heavy demo sort of review on the stream around Kyousuke was we don't actually know anything about him off the server. We can't know anything that isn't just the Counter-Strike being played that we're watching. We can make assumptions about, in this interview he sounded a bit cocky, or in this interview he was kind of a knob, or in this interview he sounded really generous to the poor. That's not anything for us. We can't use this. What we can use is demos. And so if we had to pass through demos and nitpick the fuck out of them, can we find Kyousuke's weaknesses that would make him essentially ineligible for Spirit's main team? What disqualifies him from playing in that main team? Because they have shown zero interest into making that move happen. And essentially, my takeaway is this. The man can't sit still. Well, he's 17. The boy can't sit still. And it's almost just like a disease for the guy. He just has to be fighting, has to be moving, has to be doing something. And we see him at times when he's asked to sit still, fall asleep on an angle. We saw him at times kind of just overstep and force himself forward, force himself out, try to take a fight where there wasn't one really available. And he just ends up walking around the outer yard on Nuke, just looking around. And there's nothing there. We referenced some of the demos I'd watched for sort of mini prospects I'd done on Kyousuke, and he's we're talking about these like, some sloppy mistakes he makes, but then can make up for it with the fact that he has some of the best aim you'll ever see. Arguably the best if you're feeling like making a headline out of it. He's really that good. It's just positionally, and in terms of his playstyle, in terms of being able to control, when and where he's going to peak and play within a system, there might be some concerns in terms of his ability to just slow it down. Slow it down. And you see Magic's, as much as we talk about things Magic's does that Kyousuke can obviously just do better. Hard entering, Kyousuke can do better. Challenging for space, Kyousuke can do better. Everything that comes to actually fragging people, Kyousuke's better. But can he do what Magic's does and sit somewhere for a while? Just sit somewhere. Can he play a more passive, more, comm-heavy sort of position like Ivy on Train, instead of playing connector and just kind of wide swinging either bomb site whenever something happens? That's the concern. And that's why I think he's ended up not being promoted. Because it wasn't... I think if they could have moved him into different roles and test how he played on them, or, come up with some other ideas as to how to use him in the Tier 1 team, they would have. If they could use him in the main team, they would have figured something out. I think. I want to give them that credit. But they basically concluded that he has to be that guy. The guy who's constantly mobile, taking different angles, taking different peaks, trying to challenge, trying to go for the multi-kill, trying to go that extra step into, making it a quad, making an ace. Like, he's got to be that guy. He's got to be the guy unleashed. But they don't have space for it. They need someone who's going to be more reined in, someone more controlled, someone who is going to make the smart play and the play that Chopper needs, rather than just the play that's going to net more frags. I think that might be the concern. That's what our takeaways were. As much as we saw some insane spray control, one taps, all this stuff, that was all beautiful. We also didn't see the sort of anchor play, the sort of cerebral play that maybe you'd need from a player playing like Magic's combination, like Magic's Zontic's roles, in terms of like the second active CT player.
Yeah, like he's a very crowded guy in that sense. We talked about earlier. The only source we have for information on Kyousuke is the Bet Boom Landalan interviews. Whenever he shows up there and somebody talks to him, and it's hard to draw conclusions about his game from that sort of context. When it's a lot more about his life, his past performances, whatever. So I can absolutely see that he's maybe not fit for the team in that sense, in the sense that he needs to be mobile, he needs to be playmaking, even when it's stupid to do so. So yeah, I can fully see that. That's entirely reasonable. And begs the question, what's going to happen to Falcons now that they have him, supposedly? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what to think about this. So yeah. He's a cool player, but there's obviously some refinement you need to do to make it. Yeah.
Yeah. So my contribution to this conversation at this point, the other thing they could have tried would have been, as we talked about Donk playing more clutch, playing more controlled, is moving Donk to a more passive role to give Kyousuke the absolute freedom to run out, take all the fights, do whatever. But at that point, you have to ask yourself, as Spirit, do I think Donk would enjoy playing those roles? Can he play them effectively? And that's essentially the net sum of the interviews we've had. Is just like, they don't believe Donk or Kyousuke can play any role on the team besides what Donk does. Which I think is a bit absurd, but it is the conclusion they've come to. And that's essentially what's netted Falcons such an absurd talent. Should the rumors be true and it all comes through, blah, 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 blah. That's what's also going to be their problem to solve, though. Can I have Kyousuke on this team and play, firstly, Magisk roles? You're high. No. But can he take Tess's roles? And then can we Tess's play Magic's? That's just a whole other conversation. And that's going to get real ugly too. And as much as I said, like I said on the Power 10, this is the injection of firepower Falcons need, if they're not going to be able to outstructure, outthink, outcall Vitality, they'll need to explicitly out-firepower them. Yes, Kyousuke is a banger fucking move. But figuring out how it's all going to work and interact and fall into place is a very different prospect.
Yeah,
so that's essentially the conclusion of that live stream. We spent 2 hours just spamming Kyousuke demos. I think we watched 4 Kyousuke demos all from LAN. So that's 4 demos. Takes 2 hours to watch, roughly, if anyone's ever wanted. Even with just a lot of skipping. Fast forwarding after he's dead, just fast forward, fast forward. Now, I did indulge myself and watched a bit of Alcaraz POV every now and then. I was like, low-key, a really fucking good AWPer. Let's watch some Alcaraz. And he hit some great shots and had some great rounds. But generally, we're just focusing on Kyousuke. And that was the problem. Not sure he can sit still. Not sure he can be passive.
Yeah. Gonna be interesting to see how that works out for all of us role cells.
Yeah. I mean, the ultimate role cell right now is Hallie. Like, realistically, it's none of us, it's Hallie. Hallie has maxed out his role selling. Like, he is fucking fixated. He's just like, it's gotta be perfect. It's gotta all work out. We'll see.
We'll see.
I hope for Falcons' sake it kind of works, but mostly because I want to be mad at Spirit for not trying it, you know? It's not because I wish the best for Falcons, it's just because I kind of want to be like, Spirit, you're dumb. But yeah. Onto the Eternal Shuffle, I guess. No, not the Eternal Shuffle. Not the Eternal Shuffle. What?
I think we have 2 things.
Yeah, I forgot the entire segment. And also a little news story. So, ATOX say bye-bye.
Yep.
ATOX are gone for the long sleep.
Yeah, ATOX are gone. We already heard the rumors that they were being investigated for match fixing. And that's why they got provisionally suspended, which led to them missing Blast Open, I believe it was, and got replaced there by the Hunts, who ended up doing very well. They might not last, but they, for their standards. Yeah, so there's been news around this, and the final verdict is out from ESIC, and it's bad. It is bad. It is really bad. This is not just like, the original rumor was they match fixed at an ESL Pro game, ESL Pro League game, and that was supposed to be it. This was not true.
Oh wait, that's not true. So I was about to say, if they fixed an ESL Pro League game, how could we know?
Yeah, they did fix that in ESL Pro League game. They admitted to it. It was the game against Falcons where they lost 0-2, 13-5, 13-4.
Bro, you didn't need to fix that one.
They didn't say what the fix was, I don't think. They just said that this was the game where they fixed. It could be anything. It could be over-under on somebody's frags, or it could be amount of rounds or whatever. But they did. They placed bets on it. They made money off of it. But just to run through who is being banned here, just going to drop 2 names for you. Dobu and Cabal. Says quite a lot about the Mongolian scene.
Yeah, Dobu's a big deal in terms of the role he plays in that scene. Cabal is, he's a veteran, but he's just kind of shit. You know, the problem. That's the problem.
Yeah, shit. Cabal was on IHC for a long time. Or when they were starting to make some headwaves, which is it's a prequel for the Mongols. It's basically where Blitz got a start. At this point, 0 of the players. Blitz and Techno are the only ones who are still left. But through iterations of roster changes, that is IHC used to be Mongols 3 years ago. So Cabal was on that team for quite a while before moving on to ATOX. But yeah, it's 7 people are implicated here. Dobu and Cabal, as well as their analyst Nuka, are the ones who have received lifetime bans from playing in ESIC member events, which is huge. And it's for, I'm going to go in reverse order here from least worst to worst. Nuka, this is what ESIC wrote, while working as an analyst, placed or facilitated a large number of suspicious bets, brackets over 70, tied to ATOX matches. I'll just remind you, Joel did 14, according to the official report. And actively provided false or misleading in-game tactics to ensure results aligned with corrupt betting interests. Which is quite... So this would imply that some players were not... Like, the report also says that some players seem to have been not involved. So he was anti-stratting his own team. That's what he was doing in order to make them lose games they shouldn't. But anyway, yeah, this is one thing. Cabal actively participated in match manipulation strategies and bets, often in collaboration with Dobu. He received monetary reward in exchange for not disclosing corrupt conduct, and facilitated monetary payments to teammates to secure their silence and cooperation in corrupt conduct. Wow. And here's the worst one. Dobu proved to have spearheaded match fixing, orchestrating bribes and bets against his own team, pressured or deceived teammates into cooperating with manipulated results, facilitated monetary payments to teammates to secure their silence and cooperation in corruption conduct, and admitted to engaging in match fixing behaviors and cooperating with organized criminal syndicates based in China during an interview with Isik. Like this is not just like goofing around. This is not just like, fuck it, we'll place a bet. We're being stupid. This is very organized crime. This is organized crime.
Yep.
Jesus
it's the old
Christ.
story, really. Like, realistically,
Yeah.
that is essentially what we hear about almost every match fixing thing. Like, it's very rarely the I by power fucking, oh yeah, we one off did some stupid shit. It's usually entire scenes, especially it used to be the Chinese scene famously, essentially having this corrupted influence, or this influence from a corrupting force, just warping everything. It's always a shame when we hear about it. That's basically the long and the short of it. I mean, as much as we typically do still get the correct teams, in terms of the good teams can make it out of Mongolia and play good CS at times, yeah, it's a bit of a problem to have this influence over their scene, and it's got a lot of downsides. I mean, it's probably going to be an upside for some younger players who get more opportunity to qualify for bigger events and play more internationally.
Probably, yeah.
But now this team's gone, but it's still such a monumental loss in terms of the Mongolian scene.
There's four more players who are given time-limited bans. These were all lifetime bans, the previous ones. It's their coach, but all of these seems to be basically because they either didn't report it or were abused. Like, if their trust was abused by their teammates. Because it seems like a lot of these are because they were offered money to stay silent and not reporting stuff, or maybe just didn't do it because they figured, I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt here. It does sound a bit like they were maybe like, we thought they were gonna stop and we didn't know about it, etc., etc. Like we knew about it, but we basically told them to stop, and like we were giving them the benefit of the doubt, as you maybe would as a good teammate. So, but they were still given bans. Flynn got a 3-year ban as a coach for neglecting his heightened duty of care to identify or halt known match fixing. Basically enabling them. Miku received offers of monetary reward in exchange for silent and non-reporting, which he didn't do. He didn't report. I don't know if he took the money, but he got offers for it at least. And Accuracy TG and Zesta were both given 8-month bans for not reporting breaches of the ESIC integrity program. Interesting note. When this original provisional suspension came out, I was surprised that Yami, one of the players who replaced ATOX at the Blast Bounty qualifier event where they were supposed to play, I think it was them, they were not part of this provisional suspension, and I didn't know why. And I've been trying to ask around. Nobody seemed to really know why. Here's a kicker of it. Him and Annihilation were the only members of, I'm quoting it to TV here, him and Annihilation were the only members of the lineup that competed in Pro League 20 that faced no punishment in this case. However, ESIC noted that they are currently the subject of a separate ongoing inquiry, along with Chinese veteran player Zhao Sage, who played with teams like 5-Power, where he Kyousuke, yeah. He played on 5-Power, where he literally played with Dobu and Cabal, and on Steel Helmet. He is the 35-year-old guy who played on Steel Helmet together with Captain Mo, who people might know.
Of course.
Yeah, they showed up. They showed up here and there. Yeah. So they are not in the provisional suspension. They are not given a suspension at the moment, but they've discovered additional evidence, which is part of a separate goddamn investigation. And that's quite deep-reaching, because Annihilation is a good player, used to be a good player, who kind of just disappeared. He left this ATOX team seemingly during ESL Pro League. He kind of just left the team, or maybe it was during the RMR or whatever. I remember he basically walked out in the middle of an event. Is something interesting about, like, in the middle of the event he just left. Yeah, I'll tell you, it was during the RMR with ATOX, I think. He basically just left mid-series, because on one of the maps against Chinggis Warriors, he started buying scouts every round. Sorry, not the armor. It was during a Mesa Pro series. He started for the entire map against Chinggis Warriors there in the semifinal. He just bought scouts on Dust 2 every single round, and then for the next 2 maps he was replaced, and it was supposedly because he left the venue, because this was on LAN. So maybe he found out and was upset. I don't know. Whatever the case, he's a good player, and he's kind of just disappeared. I feel like he should be on a team. Maybe he shouldn't be on a team, depending on this investigation. And Yami is one of the promising players on the Huns. He's 20 years old, and he's been doing really well. He's one of the guys who gets talked about. So, just in brief, there might be further implications from this, but this is one of the bigger things that has happened in terms of match fixing, especially in Asia.
Yeah, one of the bigger things that's ever had a actual investigation and consequences, because based on what I think Richard Lewis has often talked about in terms of the Chinese scene, there has been way bigger and way worse for way longer going down in Asia. But for this scene, it's going to be kind of a shock, as in like to the system. Like big names are going to be gone, teams are going to have to be replacing them. We'll see some opportunities, see some teams rise, but also we'll see probably some negative fallout from this in terms of community trust and teams sponsors being willing to be involved in the Mongolian scene. It might be incredibly negative as well. So we have to keep an eye out for that. It's going to be, it's a shame, especially on a team, for a region that's been really on the rise. That's going to be a huge setback.
It's a hard hit,
They were building something quite cool out in Mongolia. So this is really just shitty to see.
Side note, have you paid any attention to this stuff with match fixing in Valorant, which has happened this week? I think Sean Garris put some video out or something.
Yeah, that's fucking funny as shit. Basically, yeah.
I didn't pay any
all the
attention,
scammers and match fixers and pieces of shit from Tier 2 NACS who went over to Valorant and became big names. Turns out they were still scammers and match fixers and pieces of shit.
What is this, like actual accusations, like actually evidence and stuff?
People have been match fixing their dicks off in Tier 2 NA. And
I know, but has he put evidence forward? Because this has been under investigation, air quotes, by ESIC for years at this point.
It's essentially like we're approaching the point where it's just like bans are going to be handed out. Like it's huge though, from what I've heard. I'm not sure if the players have actually all been named and like everything's been dumped. But essentially, a good chunk of their scene is getting absolutely railed.
Yeah. I didn't watch the video. I just saw it come up, and a lot of people talked about it. It's essentially exactly what the same thing he said. It's like, wow. It turns out the bad eggs don't become good.
Doesn't matter what like you do to them. They're still bad eggs.
Yeah.
Shouldn't eat them. You shouldn't eat them.
Yep. Anyway, that's tangentially related, I guess.
Yeah, tangent, but still funny as fuck to us. But up next, speaking of people who are not good, very bad, uncool, it is our Cock of the Week.
Yep.
All right, who's Cock of the Week this week? I haven't even clicked the link you gave me for Cock of the Week, so I'm going to click it now.
TV forums list.
That's what I'm saying. It's going to be good. It's HooXi TV forums.
Yep. This is something which passed me by. It's from the user Heavy Team Fortress, heavy weapons guy, straight out of Siberia. He has posted a thread titled "Worst Players Tier List," and it's got a straw poll link. And I just thought it was super funny. The players he included on his worst players tier list. So I'm gonna read them off the options. Number 1, Messi. Would you want to answer this? Do you want to say is Messi one of the worst players at the moment?
Not even slightly.
Yeah,
I'm assuming if we're talking just tier 1, no, he's not even close to one of the worst players. Even still, like if we're just doing tier 1, he's not one of the worst players. That's absurd.
I'll put him at the bottom. I'm doing this right now. How about Stown?
I mean, he's all over the shop. He's all right. You know.
Yeah, he's all right. He's maybe somewhere in the middle.
He's had some really good showings recently, so it's kind of hard to put him as one of the worst players.
Next option, Zontix or Magix. I don't know who to put. I'd say he's better than
Problem is,
Stown.
Zontix is pretty good, and Magic's is, I mean, sure, at times a problem, but also pretty solid. So I don't really know.
I'd say both are better than Stown.
I'd say Zontix is definitely better. Magic's you can make a case if you really wanted to, and therefore the combination of both should be about Stan. Yes.
Yep. Magisk.
Yeah, he's pretty bad.
Right. Yeah. Wonderful.
I mean, on an AWP, he's not been brilliant this year. On a rifle, he's pretty good. Like, he's pretty good. So I'd actually not put him that far down. Like, as much as I think his AWPing has been iffy, his rifling is just strong, dude. Like, he's just a strong rifler.
Next option, entire G2.
Oh yeah, I mean, if I have to average out all of G2, the current version especially, which is, yeah, I put him above Magisk, but like,
this next one is so insane. This next one is so insane. Entire face, including Brokey, excluding Rain.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Is Rain the best? This is implying G2. Rain is the best player. This is implying Rain is the best player on face.
Above G2. That's all I can say.
Above G2, alright. Yeah, alright. Ultimate.
Ultimate. He's all over the shop. Put him below phase, above G2.
Alright. Yeah. And then Electronic.
I don't know. Oh, I don't know. Just under Wonderful, I guess. I don't know where you've put Wonderful, but put Electronic under Wonderful.
Yeah, right, yep.
I love how this is this guy's list.
Yeah, and finally Spinks as a candidate for the worst player at the moment.
Who's top currently?
I think the best player is Mezzy at the moment.
Yeah, put him under Mezzy.
Yeah. So yeah, this guy has these are his candidates for the worst players at the moment. I'll inform you that he neglected to put up like just going big events in top 25. Look, I'll even say big events, top 10 games. He neglected to put Yellow, Cadian. You could put fucking Mir on here. He's played a big event. Electronic might be valid, to be honest. Fallen is not on here. Snacks isn't on here.
Well, he is. He's in G2.
Fuck yeah, I forgot. Naf isn't on here. Like, Mayor is not on here, which I think would be a valid pick. Fuck yeah, it's just a really funny list, and yeah, I'm gonna put our votes in, and I'm gonna check the results. Most people apparently think Stown is the worst player at the moment.
Wow. Okay.
Followed up by Magisk. And the best player at the moment on this list is Spinks. So I guess people have some sense.
Yeah, rating cells,
apparently, it's really funny. He even put in the thread, "I skipped Aurora and Mongos because they have goated firepower out of question," which I do think is a little bit like you could probably put Techno below a lot of these guys. Like, as much as he is cracked as cracked as he is not jacked, you could definitely put probably Techno somewhere on this list.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, that was my cock of the week.
Mess. What a stupid mess that topic was. So before we get into, so the chat has just been raging about TF2 and Titanfall. Opinions. I never played Titanfall because it kind of missed me in terms of like me having a computer that could run it and me caring. Like, the two didn't really overlap. So I never really played it. And I played some TF2, and it was funny, but it wasn't really my thing. So I don't care either way, so y'all can sort that out. I know, Quack, you have strong opinions on TF2, but I don't know if you have any Titanfall
I love TF2.
takes.
No, I probably should like Titanfall, because I feel like it's kind of in, maybe not my wheelhouse in terms of what I like, but it's like, it overlaps a lot with people who like TF2. I think it's also source-based. So, like, even if it's not Valve, it's built on Source, so, you know. I think TF2 is an excellent game. It's one of the best games of all time, surely. Really fun shooter, really fun shooter game, class-based shooter game. Definitely beats out Overwatch. My sister plays Overwatch. And we always have this ongoing debate about
You mean
if
your
TF2
former
or
sister,
Overwatch is better.
this random stranger who happens to live with your parents?
Yeah, no. So we have this debate about which is better. She has never played TF2, and I've never played Overwatch.
Oh, so you're just flinging shit, just
Yeah,
random
but like
nonsense.
TF2 is better. Like it is a fact. TF2 is one of the best games of all time, surely.
Okay, all right. That's cock of
fair.
the week. Random diversion into Team Fortress, unfortunately, and now we're on to the Eternal Shuffle. Of course, the classic segment in every show. You're going to read me some of this shit. There's not that much going on, so
No,
let me know.
not a
What's
lot.
up?
This is some very deep cuts in terms of the Eternal Shuffle segments. But first off, is a rumor from KRL, which is that Gamer Legion are cutting Slend after the major and are signing Kyousuke, or are seriously in talks with Kyousuke rather. They want him.
Yeah, Percy, that guy. Gen 1 AWPer, for those of you who aren't sure, French, so obviously awesome. Really weird, honestly, this guy, because he's now in Musketeer, technically. But
or just team, yeah.
I don't know. He's just not. I've never watched him and been super impressed, you know? He's always put up solid-ish numbers in like tier 2, tier 3 sort of level. I've just never been that impressed with him when I've watched him play. Because I've given him a chance in terms of watched his POV a couple times. But I'm just... The problem is, Slend at this level smurfed. You know? Kyousuke is fine. At this sort of level. And that's the problem. I think we're talking about a talent downgrade, probably. And a guy who plays, I think, messier CS is the way I'd put it. Like, he's more aggressive, more combative. Like, Slend was always more clean and clutch and composed as an AWPer in lower tier CS. I'm comparing what they've actually played against, like, at a similar level. Have they actually played each other? That'd be funny. Have you played
That would be
Gen
funny.
1? You did. Oh my god, Gen 1, 2023. So Slend, top frags. This is Gen 1 without Kyousuke, never mind. That's of no use to me. But yeah, no, it's for me, I don't think I can get behind this super like strongly. As a grade, I have to give it a C plus. Now I'd give it a C because I don't think it's a great addition. I have to give it a C plus because it's probably the right cut right now with how Slender's been playing. And I have to give Ash some credit because he's scouted super well and made pieces that I didn't necessarily rate work as well, in terms of especially Towson. Towson for me was a random dude. Like, you just got a guy because you needed a guy. And he turns out to be a really valuable role player who could really make good use of. So I'm
especially
happy
replacing Andu, who wasn't just a random guy. Like, it did feel like a super weird signing, and it's kind of worked out.
It's worked out super well. And there was a variety of reasons why Andu ended up not being the right player. We talked about it in the interview, sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly. So from that sense, it was all fine. It's just, I'm not sure. I've got to see it to believe it. Like, you can prove me wrong, Ash. Please do. But I don't really love Kyousuke as a player.
No, I have one thing I can conjecture out of this is I have to assume that this means Heroic are in talks with Grix. Like, I can't see anybody else because they're supposedly. I don't know if we talked about this. I don't know if we talked about this rumor at all on the show, but apparently G2 are looking at getting Staw and Sunpayas.
Yes, we did talk about it.
All right, good. But that leaves Heroic without an AWPer, and surely they go for Grix at that point because, like, surely that's what's happening. Because otherwise, Gamer Legion would be all up on Grix. Reportedly, they already were interested in him. But I think Grix would probably rather go to Heroic in a weird way because Gamer Legion are like top 10. But like, I think maybe he feels like maybe playing with Tenier is more fun. And has better prospects, maybe. I don't know, whatever. But it does feel super weird for Gamer Legion to be a top 10 and look at Kyousuke, who is quite a nothing player. I'm not even sure. Like, he's not even like a wonder kid because he's 23. Like, you're not looking at somebody like a PR who's 17. Like, you're not even looking at someone like that. And he can be good, but it's like, it feels very weird. But yeah, I trust Ash here if this is real. Seems to be real. The report, which is actually not just a random KRL leak. It's actually something which has been La Source. I don't know who the hell La Source are, but they're apparently an outlet about Counter-Strike in France. They also put a more extensive article where they said that the deal could be done in the coming days. So it seems like it's happening if you are to trust that. But yeah, anyway, we have some shenanigans for Dallas. This is not travel related, but we have some cursed rosters coming over. It is travel related. It's mostly happening with visa issues, but we had a lot of this confirmed this week. Perfecto is missing out because he didn't get a visa. He was announced as a stand-in for a visa game, and he has not received. He was announced as a stand-in for a visa game, provided he gets his visa. He has not received his visa. What I heard is he didn't actually even start the application process until May 7th. And he was just approved yesterday, but that's too short notice for him to make it to Dallas. Because he still needs to, it was going to be 2 or 3 businesses before he could even pick it up, and then he has to travel and whatever. It was not going to happen. And let's be honest, BC Game are probably going to be knocked out in 2 days, so it's probably not happening. They have opted to go with Satsanito instead, who was on their bench. Why wouldn't you have done that from the start? But anyway, Perfecto's missing. Sad for him. He has received it ahead of the major if he needs to step in for Falcons because he's registered as their sub. But yeah, anyway, that's a super weird situation. Next up, FaZe have one of the most cursed rosters of all time. Simple is going to make his debut for FaZe, and they're also playing with Skulls. Has been confirmed because Rain is awaiting his second child. So Skulls is
Big Shagger. Hey.
Yeah. Skulls is playing for FaZe.
Yeah,
super weird. Yeah, super weird.
It's whoever had a visa, right, and was available, I guess. Because no offense to Skulls, but no, that's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, I actually forgot about this one as well. We have another visa issue. Slend is gone. Somebody in chat said Ash put Slend's visa through the shredder. I did like that. But Acor's back. Hello, Acor. Actually, I kind of like Acor. I realize he's never put up numbers to make.
You've got a thing for certain types of players. I won't say what, but certain types of players you just have this thing for. You're like, you just love them for some reason. And you keep getting your heart broken because they keep not winning. I think it's
the fact that I look at them and I say, you are better than your numbers would say. And Acor's
almost always wrong.
I mean, yeah.
Sorry.
I'll say
you love these bums way too much.
I'm not gonna mention who the other players on that list are, but there's a few. Yeah, no, Acor's back. Hello, Acor. Honestly, no, the funniest thing about Acor is when he was benched on Mouse, didn't say a word until maybe 3 months later when Astralis announced their new opper, and I think it was at that point Farlig came in instead of Lucky. And that's the first thing Acor tweets since being benched by Mouse is just a quote tweet of Astralis announcement and a crying emoji. And I did think that was really funny because it's like he was obviously waiting for a call and he never got it. It's a hilarious story. But yeah, anyway, he found a second win. He ended up on GL, played a major final, no biggie. But yeah. Here's to hoping things go well for Skulls, Acor, Simple, and Satanito.
Yeah, hopefully. Honestly, we just hope FaZe look good and hope Simple plays well. That's the biggest wish.
Jesus Christ! Yeah, FaZe. How FaZe do a Dallas could go so many different ways because this is a roster which could crumble the second they step on the server, and it's also one which could just bang. They could win the event. It's
honestly,
yeah. Oh, we'll see.
Yep.
Next up, Prototype Blaze. Impact team out of France. Your favorite team. They have received some org support. Zerans have entered Counter-Strike by signing Prototype Blaze just ahead of the Dallas finals.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at this org. They're a French org,
Never heard of them.
so it's Zerance, but I have no idea who these people are. They have some other. Is that another women's team and some other sport? League of Legends? Yeah, I don't know. It's cool. It's good for them. It's great for the Impact scene to have some orgs interested, involved. Willing to put some money behind these teams. Yeah, Prototype Blaze, basically the French national team. Yeah,
literally the French national team. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll be playing the Impact League finals in Dallas. So yeah, look out for Zerance if you can't read French. And yeah, they might be a better team than you expect, given that they're not Imperial Valkyries and no one else. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's good for them. Fresh off the back of being mentioned on Retake the Week as two very talented players, Preezy have cut Patty and Becker. Patty has opted not to stay with Preezy for whatever the reason, I can't remember, and Becker has opted to step away from professional Counter-Strike.
Yeah, it's a shame. Becker showed us some cool stuff. Patty, it just didn't make sense having him on this team. They didn't need another IGL.
I don't know, man. I
It's
don't
just
know.
weird. It was just a weird roster the entire time. So no, we've got two guys, one stepping away, one looking for other ideas. We'll see, but man, it's just an odd team, this Preezy roster. So I'm not really sure what to think about it going in, let alone what to think of now.
They're gonna have more players. Supposedly they will finally be announcing their new lineup, because I think Patty was on a trial period, and I'm assuming Becker didn't even have a contract to begin with.
Right.
Because he was here for such a short time. I'm assuming he just showed up. I like the Preezy guys. I've met them. They're really cool. And I think they have a neat little project that maybe they could make something out of. But yeah, let's see who their other players coming in are, because that's really gonna determine a lot about what I think about this team. Finally, Partisan have cut Emmy, their in-game leader. We're really making deep cuts into. This
look,
is
Partisan. You might have a good A anchor on Mirage now. Maybe you can stop a fucking A execute. I don't know, man. Like he's never been that special of an IGL. He's been like solid, like the guy you can kind of turn to reliably in the Balkans. Like, or well, if you're Serbs, typically, like you can rely on Partisan's Emmy to get the job done. But he's not great, and he's always been a bot fragger, like crazy bot fragger. So they're not losing much in terms of firepower. So yeah, here you go. Goodbye. I guess like a C. It depends on what they have coming in. Realistically, these are half moves. If I know who's in there, then maybe I have a stronger take. But I think for now I can just give it a C, because like it's an IGL gone. It's always tough to replace.
I cannot think of a different Balkan player who would come in and instantly make them better. I'm not sure. I can
Ships.
That would be quite something. What a
technically
turnaround.
Balkan.
Enemies to lovers arc in the
Yes, thank you for Nico. Technically Nico would make Partisan better, but a player who actually play with them is more the question we have.
You're telling me this just now. Do have another really deep cut, actually, just really quickly. Fisher College have disbanded. Oh,
that's an F. It's an F. F's in chat, everyone. F's in chat.
F,
Fisher College, our favorite college team in the US college circuit. Rest in peace. A very North American lineup of a Swede, an Icelandic man, a Dutchman, and a Belgian.
And Korn.
And Korn is even listed on HLTV.
No, yeah, he's gone now. He left before they disbanded officially, like a day before.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. They disbanded, and Korn was on HLTV listed as left, and then Alex tweeted that they disbanded like less than a day later. Yeah, they actually played in Europe. I think they played one event in Europe. I think that might be why they're still listed, because they played something in Europe. They played United 21 or something like that for some reason.
They played CCT Season 3 Europe close qualifier.
Oh, wow. Okay, they actually
lost
played
2-0,
that.
2-0, but yeah.
What
smashed.
Yeah, I don't even know why they were
you're not
here.
A great team if you get 2-0'd, 13-2, 13-5 by Alliance. Like, bro,
yeah, I don't even know why they're here. Why are they in Europe? But anyway, yeah, they.
Probably because most of them are European. and they
Dude.
had maybe a holiday, like
I guess maybe the semester's over or whatever.
spring break, woo,
Oh
actually.
yeah. All right. Sad for them. Sad for Fisher College, our favorite college.
Our favorite college, yes. But let's get into prospects of the week, shall we? Let's wrap up this show with the classic prospects of the week. We're coming up to your hard out in 8 minutes, so I'll do my best to make a 7-minute section. Of
we are.
pick.
I think we're fine. Meeting got cancelled.
Oh, for crying out loud! I was being really condensed. I had so many points about Patty and Becker, or Batty and Pecker, which is just way better, by the way. Y'all should switch first letters.
Batty and Pecker.
Is
fucking Pecker, man.
Yo, Batty. Anyway, Nota is my pick for prospect of the week. Former prospect member. Had a great week with Paravision in their CCT run. 1.28 rating, 1.46 impact. Also had some good maps in the Yala contenders, whatever the fuck. A bit of a rough final against Ents, but so did everyone basically on Paravision. He at least had one strong map. But yeah, dumpstered OG, dumpstered Ruby. He just, had a strong run of it, especially in the domestic matchups. He also laid some pipe against Amcal. So we are talking again about Nota, who was an actual a full-on fucking prospect episode, alongside his twin probably at some point in Texie, but we'll talk about that with the members when we get them to elect the next prospect episode. That'll be coming soon. Just need to figure out the full list of people who will get voted on. But yeah, that's my pick. It's a pretty easy one, a classic one. It's a young Russian rifler who put up big numbers. Whoa, mind-blowing. But hey, at least he got, basically, the reason his numbers kind of fell down is that Belchanok was the guy taking all the openings, playing essentially the roles that we saw Nota do well in. And for this sort of week, they seem to have swapped in terms of who's the hard entry, who's the openings guy, who's the support, who's the star. And so Nota got insane numbers out of it. So I'd love to see it.
Yeah. Good stuff. But he did get kind of smacked by Ens in the grand final of this CCT event. And on that team, and absolutely rampant the entire playoff run, which lasted most of this week, was Casper Sky on Ens. Look, he had a bit of a weak final, but he still ends the week with a 130 rating. They actually played 2 events, but it was mostly the CCT event where he was doing big numbers against Nexus, Saw, Nemiga, and look, even the final map against Paravision, he was really good, and that's sort of what sealed the deal in that final. He has shown really good stuff, and he's been sort of up and down recently. I feel like he hasn't really had these big weeks, so it's like this has been a really good run of form for him. 94 ADR, 0.85 KPR. That's really good, and especially for wrapping up an event. Looking at the Ends roster, I wouldn't have said that Casper Sky would be the guy to lead the way there. But this week he absolutely has. STY is up there as well, but it's definitely Casper Sky who has done the most work in sealing that win. So yeah, another online event win. I feel like Ends have had a rough time closing out these CCT events. It's still, as much as it's online and it's a lot of online teams, it's still a pretty rough bracket a lot of the time, because it ends up you end up facing basically the best tier 2 teams in this playoff bracket. And they've made a bunch of top 4s. They've gone out in quarterfinals a couple of times as well, but they had 3 top 4 runs along with a couple of quarterfinal eliminations. So even the one before that. So they finally close it up with a win against Paravision, no less. Is no mean feat. As much as Nota was good during the event, James was really good as well, especially in the final itself. So yeah, good run. Nemiga as well. That's a major attending team, and you stomped them. Nice. That's a good job.
Yeah, impressive. And I think for me, actually, Ents, you do want to see Casper Sky dominating. You need that, because he is going to be... He's your aggressive rifle star. He's the one you really want to be setting up and going for all these plays. And as much as SDY and Net, you do a really good job, filling out the trading roles, doing some of the more sportive work, anchoring, playing certain rotate spots pretty strongly. You really need that Casper Sky impact. And Pody, as much as I like him, as I want him to succeed, he's not really shown himself to be a very assertive, very impactful AWPer. So a lot of your impact has to come through the rifling. And Casper Sky is the most important part of that. So, yeah, brilliant week for him. Big win for Ents. Hopefully we can see them playing big events against. It's nice. We saw Snappy play a big event with his team, do well. We saw Ents attend the Blast Rivals at the start of the year. It'd be nice
Yep.
to see them back up again in that sort of echelon. I mean, this feels like the sort of roster that should be like 15 to 20, playing the early stages of most big events. Showing us some cool stuff, showing us some interesting strats, and really relying on their team play and these young players to get them through matches.
Yeah, they were close to making it to Austin. We could have seen them there in the early stage. Next opportunity to see them in a more of a proper setting is they have a LAN event starting in 2 weeks. It's the Prague thing. I wanted to go to this, but it's completely wrong dates. I cannot swing this. It's a 4-team LAN event. They had an online section before, but it's going to be ENCE, Fnatic, 9, and 500. All 4 of which really need a LAN win, so that's nice. One of them is going to get it.
Yeah. Good luck to them. And that's going to be our show. Those are our prospects. Let's wrap it up. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. It's really fun having a strong viewer base of these. Good active chat. Always lovely. And yeah, remember to if you enjoyed, leave a comment telling us your thoughts on any of our takes, because I know a lot of people are going to be watching the VOD. Sub if you want to see more. And remember that members get access to more content and a bunch of rights that normies don't have access to. So please become a member to support the channel. But all right, we'll see you next week. That's all for this one. Goodbye.